didn't know before you got here. And people said, I had no idea about that. And it gave them a chance to express their learning. The sheets at the end of that first segment were then handed in and went to staff. Staff looked them over and distilled common themes that they saw. Meanwhile, we'd gone on in the room to the second segment. Another presentation was made. And the staff was consolidating the feedback from the forms while that was happening. They went into the small groups, they discussed that, they filled out their worksheets at the end of that one, at which point, before we went on to the third segment, we told them, we had a report out on what we had discerned from the first round of feedback coming out of those first discussions. Here's what you all said. Here were the themes that we saw in the sheets that you've. So this is closing the loop. We then went on to the third segment. Meanwhile, we were reviewing, the staff was reviewing the handouts, the worksheets from the second segment. Before we went to the fourth segment, we gave them feedback about what we'd learned from the second. And so that went on to the end. So that's putting into practice all the things that I was talking about the functions of public participation. I worked very closely with all of the presenters. There were 4 segments. I worked very closely with all 4 presenters on their presentations to make sure they weren't too technical, that people would be able to understand them, that they were covering. We worked on the language. We crafted the presentations to be no more than 15 minutes. That's critically important, all of that. And the staff on its own would not have been able to do it, I can tell you that. I mean, it's not just self-congratulatory. They wouldn't have been able to figure out how to do that well. And it was the feedback and the iterations that we went through that allowed that to work. There were roving staff available to answer questions at the small group tables. People had a question. Instead of having to go to a microphone to ask their question, we'd call over a staff member and get it answered. We did not have, and I would advise not having, public microphones. There was no public microphone to speak at. It simply wasn't part of the program. And then there were tables in the back where people could, and we kept telling them that it was there, that they could go make, and I don't know if we did that at the workshop because it was too late, but you could do that. You could have tables in the back where people could go, and you would provide several different media through which to make those official public comments on the record. You could have forms where people could write their comments down. You could have multilingual scribes to take it orally and write it down for them. And you could have recording devices where people could actually speak into a tape recorder and they could make their public comment on the record. No reason why not. No reason why not. I think I've covered this. So this was the workshop, and I've described it. Okay. One of the things about effective outreach, let me note, and I know we're running out of time. It's important that the people who show up are not just the people with grievances. It's important that their supporters be there too, and you want to have them engaging with each other as part of the deliberative process, which can't take place in a public hearing. But you want people to be exposed to other points of view about it. But the problem is that supporters or undecideds typically don't show up. And there's good theoretical reasons for explaining that. It's not worth their time. They're happy with what's being proposed, or they don't know enough to be concerned, or whatever. And why should they go? Why should they go? There are 2 research shows. This is clear in the research. Research shows that there are 2 motivators that get people to come to public participation. One is that they're afraid. They're threatened by the proposed change as they understand it, and they want to be there to fight it. That's why people show up when they're threatened and fearful, right? That's what you get left to their own devices. But the second, and this is very important, the other way you get people to participate is that they have to be asked to participate by someone they have a trusting relationship with. It depends on who asks them. If it's an elected official says, I want you all to come out, people might come out if they have a good relationship with them. If an advocacy group says to its members, we want you to come out, if the pastor of the church says, it's this meeting, it's important to us, we should come out. Networking, word of mouth, but it's who asks you to participate that gets people to come, when otherwise there are no incentives in the world that would get them there. It's the relationships. Very important. I just note here that there are lots of different kinds of events other than workshops, and I'd be happy to talk about those at another time if you wanted to hear about them. Let me see if there's. Let me just talk about this one for a moment. One of the things that I have used over the years on other issues, recycling in New York City, when Mayor Bloomberg suspended the recycling program in 2002, I was able to get a process up and running called the New York City Roundtable on Recycling, and it was a public roundtable. It was an audience of about 100 people. The discussion took place in the round. There was a table in the center of the room. The audience was all around it. The people in the center of the room, there were several different combinations of people, were either local advocates, people from other cities, even other countries who had come and shared their experience with us. And they had a facilitated discussion at the center table. The public listened. It was then an opportunity for the public to ask questions of the people at the center table, but this is critical. They were not allowed to ask questions of people in the audience. You could not direct a question to people in the audience. Why? Because I wanted public officials to be able to come and be safe and not be put on the spot, not have to justify what they've said, not just to be there to learn. And the ground rule was, you can't ask a question to someone who's not at the center table. And we hadn't invited those people to be part of that discussion. We wanted them to sit and learn with no pressure and no need to be defensive. The result of that process was that some new ideas surfaced that became the basis upon which the mayor and the city council agreed to bring back the recycling program. Huge success. And it's another example of a public participation process designed for the circumstances, for the particular circumstances we were faced with. So I leave you with that. I'd be happy to talk about it more whenever you would all be interested.
Thank you very much for your before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I just want to wish everybody a happy and healthy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever fits your need, and we'll see you in the new year.
I just wanted to make one point. We were intending to ask somebody from the MTA to come to this as well, but the person who was in charge of public engagement is now working for Anheuser-Busch. So I think the lesson we can learn here is that if you want to be more satisfied, leave this building and go do something that has to do with beer.
Who is that? Amy Vargas? Who was your last meeting?
Motion to adjourn?
No, just one thing for the record. I think these alternatives are wonderful suggestions, and I think we need to pursue them, but I want it on the record that it is a statutory requirement, as Ira said, in the Public Authorities Law, that pursuant to the Public Authorities Law, the MTA and its subsidiaries are required to have a public hearing prior to effecting any changes in fares. And the legislature, actually, the New York State legislature...
Specifically fares.
Fares. And the legislature spells out what notice requirements there are and how they're supposed to engage the public. There are other requirements for other types of things like token booth closures, and but maybe this is something we should pursue through recommendation for legislation. But they're definitely obligated. This was all litigated when there was that accusation that there were two sets of books, and the controller and NYPIRG and other organizations sued.
Right, thank you. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Okay, Happy New Year, everybody.
I have my hand in the air.